Hey, no, not what's up. It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, and today I'm going to do another triplet of movie reviews where I talk about good movies, great movies that came out in the past few years. Also, I I realized this just a couple of days ago. Two of these movies are perfect movies for November, and all the warriors who are participating in the event of the No Nut November. So let's go. So the movies are Shame by Steve McQueen, Under the Skin by Jonathan Glazer, and Gone Girl by David Fincher. And again, two of these three movies are perfect movies for the November event. And actually, three of these movies are also pretty anti uh, anti lust. Yeah, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Let's go. So originally, I'm gonna start off with Gone Girl, but because there are spoilers, so I kind of want to put it towards the end. I'm gonna talk about Shame first, a movie that I watched yesterday. It's way more adult and way more sexually graphic than I have expected, but I made it through. I made it through in one piece, and wow, it's a very depressing movie. It's cold, it's grim, and it's such a gray depiction of sex addiction. The movie is about a man named Brandon, played by Michael Fassbender, and it's about how his life totally spiraled into chaos when his sister, whose name is Sissy, played by Carey Mulligan, decided to move in to live with him. And all of these incidents just happened, and it really shook him, and he realized that this addiction is a real problem, but it's a really slow and gradual realization. There are many different parts in the movie where he really tries to go against fighting the addiction by feeding more into the addiction. Yes, it is a slow burn. It is definitely not as accessible as 12 Years a Slave by the same director, which is way more entertaining, way more accessible, and certainly has more just amazing shots. But still, I think this movie is just a really great insight into addiction, the weight of addiction, and how addiction ruins lives. And there are, yes, it's a slow burn and it's not a very eventful movie, but there are several very emotional moments throughout the entire movie that I just really appreciate. Like how when Sissy, Brandon's sister, finds out about Brandon's addiction, and Brandon was feeling very ashamed and guilty, like the title Shame. And we also have a scene where Brandon tries a legitimate relationship with someone and just doesn't get turned on because he realized that this is going to be a long-term relationship, and he basically likes to pick up girls and hit on them every single night, and call prostitutes, masturbate every single night, every single day. I don't know how this is humanly possible, but like when you have such an addiction, I guess it's possible that you can be this turned on all the time. But still, he's not a fan of monogamy, and so he doesn't get turned on, and that feels like a legitimate problem. That feels like that reads to me that the addiction is affecting how he socializes with people, specifically with how he dates, and that is really heartbreaking. And while the ending isn't really a definite, absolute ending of a climax, it still hits really hard. And overall, it's a really satisfying movie. The cinematography is pretty good as well. A lot of seamless one takes, especially the one where Brandon takes a jog because he gets frustrated, and there's a scene where he he takes a jog, and this camera just follows him for like so many streets. It's actually impressive, and Michael Fassbender's performance is fantastic. He is amazing, and you can really tell the pain and the shame that the character has. So yeah, I am enjoying the movie. I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10. I'm saying that this is a movie worth watching as well. Moving over to the second movie, Under the Skin, by a lesser known director named Jonathan Glazer, and apparently he worked on a film, a film with a similar idea for a very, very, very long time, for like over a decade, and then he ends up with this, Under the Skin. And without spoiling much, this movie is about an alien entity disguising as a woman played by Scarlett Johansson in Glasgow, Scotland, preying on men, killing them, and that's it. That's the plot. This movie is a slow burn, and it's really, really slow. There are scenes here that are just so clean and polished, and so slow. It's like I'm watching Twin Peaks. Uh, it's David Lynch kind of slow, so it's not for everyone, and it's really hard to enjoy the film, because this movie is really disturbing. Actually, it makes horror films, it makes mainstream horror films look like child's movies. Like this is very, very, very disturbing to the core. The artistic style of the movie is just so clean and polished, and sometimes it's full of void and abyss. It feels very hollow sometimes, and it feels very disgusting and unsettling and eerie at other times as well. And also, what's really special about this movie is that there are several scenes where it's not scripted. It's completely acted out by non-actors who are actually reacting to Scarlett Johansson's character in real time and with hidden cameras. And after they got filmed, the director and the film crew just tells them about it and asks for their permission to be in the film. So it's really special. Some of the scenes here, they are really, really realistic because they're actually real. And for the soundtrack, it is actually very, very impressive. There are all these just manic alien strings, and also these very subtle but just eerie, unsettling percussion, and together they are atmospheric and very disturbing. Again, I don't want to spoil much, but after viewing the movie, yes, the movie feels like it's very slow, and it certainly puts style over substance. But if you think about the movie multiple times, many times after watching the movie, you'll realize that there's actually a theme in the movie, but it's so subtle, it's really hard to find out. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but basically the main character, who's played by Scarlett Johansson, she slowly starts to have feelings, have a soul, and be a human being. She finally feels human, and towards the very end, you know what? You need to watch it yourself. I'm not gonna spoil the ending. I'm giving this movie a strong 7 to a light 8 out of 10. If it weren't for the artistic style and the soundtrack, it's gonna be a 7, maybe even a 6. But it's just so artistic. I have to give it an 8, and it's a movie worth watching as well. Okay, third movie, Gone Girl, which is a long movie, 2.5 hours, and I am completely hooked to the screen for 2.5 hours. Never have I got distracted ever, because this movie is interesting. This is a movie by David Fincher, who's known for his crime mystery movies, Seven, Zodiac, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I will review soon. And then we have Gone Girl, which is based off of a novel. And yes, this premise is not super original. Wife goes missing, and maybe she's killed. Who knows? But this movie has so many twists and turns, and the plot of the movie has so much depth. I'm actually really interested in the movie. This movie features Ben Affleck as the main character, and he's actually great. We also have Rosamund Pike as the wife who disappeared, and they're both fantastic. But to my surprise, Ben Affleck's character's lawyer is played by Tyler Perry, and he's actually good. He's known for playing silly roles, which are not good at all. And apparently, before joining this movie, he doesn't know who is David Fincher. So, yeah, but actually, he's pretty good as the lawyer. Yes, while it is not as artistic, the story is totally and yes, while the movie isn't super artistic or anything, the plot really hooks me in, and you're not shown the whole truth at first. You see all sorts of bits and pieces of evidence and clues, and you sort of piece them together like a puzzle, and you see what the media sees, and it's just really interesting. I really like this kind of stuff. I mean, I am the detective after all, and I just really love how this movie, and I just really love how at first we see Ben Affleck's character as this nice guy who's maybe kind of awkward, but later on, after a few clues, we start to think that he might be the killer, and it's just really interesting. And this movie also depicted two things that I think is amazing. First of all, the power of media. It's terrifying. And second of all, spoiler alert, because I'm going into spoiler territory here. If you haven't watched the movie, go to the comments. There's a timestamp there. Skip to the end of the video and see the score. But basically, Ben Affleck didn't kill his wife. His wife totally staged it very carefully, masterfully, actually. And his wife is a sociopath as well. She's a high-functioning sociopath who is super smart, who is very manipulative and controlling, who is a pathological liar, and who really knows how to pull heartstrings and play the victim. And damn, this is a really accurate depiction of sociopathy. I can almost see one of my classmates in her character, and I was like, wow, my classmate acts like this as well. But there are twists and turns. Neil Patrick Harris plays this other rich guy who wants to bang the wife, and of course the wife uses him to her own advantage, and the wife kills him, and then towards the end of the movie, the wife was never arrested, and it wasn't like a happily ever after ending. It was very much sad because Ben Affleck and his wife is back together again, and they still hate each other, and Ben Affleck was very much afraid of her because he knows that she might kill him. But that's really the ending of the movie, which I actually prefer over the wife getting exposed and getting arrested, a happy ending, because this ending is realistic and it's sad and it leaves a bigger impact on me, and I just like it better. So yeah, overall, this is a great movie that is really well acted. The screenplay is fantastic, and again, I was hooked from start to finish, and I love the movie a lot. I think it's a great movie, and I'm feeling a 9 out of 10 for the movie, and I think this movie is totally worth watching. So, have you watched these 3 movies from 1 to 10? How much did you rate them? Like if you like them, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.